Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. I originally had something else planned for today, but I'm going to do this instead. I may run the video I recorded tomorrow because Cyberpunk 2077, after getting gold certification, is delayed 21 days. And a lot of people are making a lot more out of it than the very plausible reason given by the developers. And so I wanted to make a video on it. If you like this kind of sane, not terribly charged content with some cat hair in in the camera, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Okay, what do we know? We know that the Cyberpunk developers, the project leads, put a thing up on Twitter that announced the delay. And as far as I can tell, it's fairly straightforward. There's no reason to suspect any sort of conspiracy here. I'll show it to you. That probably doesn't look very good on small screens, but it says, hey everyone, today we've decided to move the release date of Cyberpunk 2077 by 21 days. The new release date is December 10th. Most likely there are many emotions and questions in your head, so first and foremost, please accept our humble apologies. Good on ya, CD Projekt Red. Okay. The biggest challenge for us right now is shipping the game on current gen, next gen, and PC at the same time, which requires us to prepare and test 9 versions of it. Xbox One X compatibility, Xbox Series SX, PS4 Pro compatibility on PS5, PC, Stadia while working from home. Since Cyberpunk 2077 evolved towards almost being a next-gen title somewhere along the way, we need to make sure everything works well and every version runs smoothly. We're aware it might seem unrealistic when someone says that 21 days can make any difference in such a massive and complex game, but they really do. Some of you might also be wondering what these words mean in light of us saying we achieved Gold Master some time ago. Passing certification or going gold means the game is ready, can be completed, and has all content in it. But it doesn't mean we stop working on it and raising the quality bar. On the contrary, this is the time where many improvements are being made, which will then be distributed via a day zero patch. This is the time period we undercalculated. We feel we have an amazing game on our hands and are willing to make every decision, even the hardest ones, if it ultimately leads you to getting a better video game you'll fall in love with. And it's the project leads. And so all of this passes the smell test. I just want everybody to know that right away. This is from the Cyberpunk game Twitter feed. All of this passes the smell test. It is true that trying to do a game of any size in this period of one console cycle moving into another console cycle, you have to do a lot of different versions of the game, which is why there don't tend to be that many games straddling this divide. This is why you tend to see either console exclusive, like console generation exclusive games coming out at launch, or you see games like this coming out 6 months or so after the console launches, not right at launch, the way Cyberpunk is doing right now. Agreeing to do this was kind of nuts instead of doing the thing that other companies are doing, which is it's going to be this version of the game and then you get a next-gen upgrade later on. I think perhaps this game is too big to move consoles. That there's got to be some reason they're doing it this way, or they just got some money from the various console makers to put it out as a launch title or a near launch title. Though, so that is accurate. It also is fair to give them a bit of benefit of the doubt, considering they're working from home because of COVID-19. It hits Poland too, right? And who knows how spread out this dev team is. Now, the thing I find odd about this particular game is the knives out for it from either people who have some sort of personal wounded feelings or just people who seem to oppose this game on some sort of odd political grounds. And I'm sure that's making this that much harder. I mean, we once again, oh, I think Jason Schreier's blocked me. Well, that's interesting. He's limited his tweets. And I can't see his tweet. I can see his tweets when I search based on the content of the tweet, but I can't see his tweets. That's very interesting. Okay, we'll have to do this the yucky way. This isn't going to look as pretty as it otherwise would, but here we go. We're going to try to make this, you can see kind of what's going on, because this is sort of, this has got me baffled, and this accidentally ties into what I was talking about earlier. So this is from the Google search page, right? And I don't know who this third person is. It's a viewpoint. Please do not give them a hard time about expressing a viewpoint. I am going to deal with the viewpoint, not the people. Okay? Please don't give this person a hard time. Just leave them alone. So we've got the Cyberpunk tweet here, the one I just read you. Then we've got Jason Schreier, formerly of Kotaku, now of Bloomberg, saying, Cyberpunk 2077 getting a 3-week delay is unusual, but probably won't change much for the developers, many of whom were going to be crunching into December anyway for a post-launch patch. But I sure do hope reality is becoming clearer to those who try to deny it. What that reality is, that seems to me like sore feelings, based on the fact that he took some criticism for his crunch reporting that may have been, more on that in a bit, okay? And then we've got this other opinion that someone directly tweeted this at me, this transphobia thing. This is what I got, not from this person. That's what I'm saying. This is not the only person who holds this view. So let's not do the bad take crap here, please. I really hope that Cyberpunk reviewers across all major outlets will meaningfully address and spotlight the labor and transphobia issues in their reviews. More? Transphobia issues? How do we know the game is transphobic? The game is not out yet. We can only deal with what we have at the time. So, one, they mentioned the labor thing, which Jason Schreier is also alluding to. I do believe, I've covered this extensively. You can go back and watch my previous Cyberpunk videos. I do believe that this has been overblown, that it's a U.S., like an American framing on what it means to do crunch, not factoring in that Poland has stronger labor laws and they just can't crunch people the way they do in the US. What does it say that a former Soviet bloc country has better labor laws than the US right now? I'll leave that there. This is what gets me into trouble about politics. No, this is an issue in games, okay? But I do think it's not that Jason Schreier's original article was wrong. You can accurately depict the information you got based on the people you talk to. But if you don't go out and actively pursue the other side of an issue, you may end up with a false perception of the issue as a whole. That's what I think went on there. That's what I think he can't accept. That's what I find so strange. That one of the top investigative journalists in video games seems to be really upset about the reality of doing investigative journalism. You take shit for stuff. I did I was part of a documentary on, God, what the heck did we call it? I forget, but people who in the music industry back in the day who used social causes to basically be PR stunts for them as an artistic brand. And we did a whole thing on Bono's activities, and whoo, did we take shit for it. It just comes with the territory when, you know, you're doing something that challenges the status quo. You have to sort of roll with the punches and at least not outwardly be too upset when people take it badly. You can tweet something nowadays and people take it badly. Trust me, I know. So that's very strange to me. And it makes me wonder, if his new deal at Bloomberg might be not quite what he hoped it was, or he's just, kind of unhappy right now or in general. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. But the transphobia thing took more digging. And it's weird because it's one of these things where I couldn't actually find an established article dealing with alleged transphobic content in Cyberpunk 2077 other than that billboard scandal from like over a year ago where there's a trans model in the billboard, and it turns out a female artist, cisgender female, but female artist did that, and she said, I thought I put that in there because I thought this person is attractive. And I thought that was settled. But apparently there's an additional thing on the way characters respond to you in game being connected to the pitch of a character's voice. And people are insisting that that's transphobic. And they're using this delay to bring this up again. And I want to take the second part of should Cyberpunk be punished for in reviews for its labor practices and this sort of political controversy, if you will. I use that term very loosely. Well, the same standards have to apply to everyone. And if Naughty Dog was not penalized in reviews, even though they had excessive turnover rates, which and a lot of stories about crunch at that company, if Mortal Kombat isn't penalized in reviews because artists are literally getting traumatized, apparently, looking at so much gore to do a game about evil wizards and Baraka monsters, you can't penalize a company because you think they're right wing. More on that in a bit. Let me make a note to go back to that. Okay. So other games, the process separated the review of the game to what it took to make that game. So Cyberpunk 2077 has to have the same standard applied to it. That's easy. The transphobia part, I know I'm going to take shit for this. It may be, I get the sensitivity about feminized voices. I also understand that certain game development challenges are Kobayashi Maru's. You kind of have to pick how you're going to fail. I get that, and this is the thing I think a lot of people do not understand about the transhumanist element of the cyberpunk genre. And this is going to be a huge mess because of the philosophical stuff, and people like to make this derivative. I've been a nerd for a long time. So, the whole cyberpunk genre has been around, for a while, going back to, Blade Runner was a result of it. It didn't create it, right? It's been around that long. And part of the cyberpunk genre is the idea that the meat sack you are born into is not destiny. In many different ways, cybernetics and various enhancements transcend the how you manifested in physical form as meat. It's where terms like meat space and things like that come from. The whole idea is biology is definitely not destiny. It's hardwired into the cyberpunk aesthetic the same way underwear on the outside is hardwired into the steampunk aesthetic. And I think some people may not know that, and so they're being too sensitive. I hate, that's a bad term. They are being too pessimistic here. And this is a perfect example of how people are applying politics that may or may not apply here. And artistry and fictional genre is clashing with sensitive political matters of the day, right? And it results in something that may or may not be unfair criticism and jumping the gun. It could be that they mangle the depiction of trans people in this game. I would be very, very surprised at that, simply because you don't tackle a cyberpunk genre game if you're not going to be trans inclusive. It's the idea that people can change their bodies, like I said, has been part of cyberpunk as long as there's been this idea of cyberpunk. Avatars that don't match a person's gender that they have in the real world. People can be anything they want in this space through enhancements. So I don't think it's fair to label a game transphobic because gender is connected to voice pitch. Is it how I would have approached the problem as a developer? No. I would have just let people be able to pick their gender, have nothing to do with the voice, the way Saints Row did it. But it seems like Cyberpunk was, from an artistic perspective, because of the genre, trying to avoid the ideas of male and female in their character creator. This stuff's dense, and so I apologize if I get that wrong. This is my understanding of the design philosophy going into this game. Again, we haven't seen the game. I don't know. I'll revisit when it comes out. But that is consistent with a cyberpunk aesthetic that basically said, no, gender's sort of a moot point in this world. And it's just possible that they've made it in the game that characters are assholes and they misgender people, or this is just the way this particular futuristic, not real culture deals with gender and manifests gender, that it's a choice and people can actually augment their voices because they're not stuck with the voice that, because they couldn't do the puberty blockers and all that stuff. I don't think it's inherently transphobic to go, we are creating a world of better living through science. We are going to assume that people who feel female are going to take every option open to them to perform as female because they have a gender identity, and that gender identity is hardwired and innate, and they're just making their outside match their insides. Simple, not transphobic at all. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't sensitivities, and some people won't play the game and wish very much that they could have that in this world, right? I mean, the problem with this sort of thing is it can trigger people's dysmorphia. And that sucks. And that's heartbreaking. And this is where we get into ethically, is it unfair for a developer to take on that burden, and so people should just skip the game? Or should developers strive to be inclusive based on the inherent characteristics of their game? It's the reasonable access disability paradigm, right? Like, if there's something inherent to the job that means you have to have this, you can't claim that you're discriminating against somebody. I mangled that, but hopefully you get the idea. And like I said, as much as there are ways of justifying this within the cyberpunk genre, I think perhaps CDPR being where they are and sort of the makeup of the company, they might not be totally aware of how this could hit people. I can see the merit in saying, look, this is cyberpunk. People can't, people can't have bionic arms in real life yet either, right? And okay, are we going to say, oh, you can't do that because an actual amputee might get offended? I think that's a fair benchmark, even though I really sympathize with people who have, and by sympathize, I mean I have been in that place where I play media and every single woman is something I'm totally not, and these are considered the ideal woman and the only idea of womanhood in a property, and I feel very upset about that. Not so much anymore, but when I was younger, that was a real thing. So when I say I sympathize, I really do mean, to some extent, I know how you feel, and I can just multiply that a gazillion times. Now, dogpile me all you want. The reality is that there is a larger concept at play here, which is, for instance, I stopped playing Metal Gear Solid games, picked it up. I didn't play 4 because 3 had a bad impact on me. I started playing 5 and didn't finish it because there are certain things in that game. It's a very well done game. I find it too hard to handle. It just pushes the wrong buttons. It makes me feel icky. And I know this is weird because there's a lot of similar themes in Death Stranding. It's just not like, the way Quiet gets tortured and treated like a piece of meat. And I know that's all deliberate, but, right? Not my thing. Moving on. I don't play Grand Theft Auto. Not my thing. Moving on. There is no requirement to play a particular video game. You are not lacking access to government services or the ability to be a fully functioning member of society because a video game does not absolutely cater to you. Okay. You're not going to have a ton of trans inclusion in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Though it is Ubisoft, they do seem to find a way to sneak that in there in places. Watch Dogs Legion will probably have something, though, maybe it's out. I don't know. When's Watch Dog Legion coming out? Yeah. Okay, it's out this week. It's out in 2 days. Sorry, 1 day. So, maybe there'll be something there. Play that. Vote affirmatively with your wallets. And don't demand a game that we haven't even had. Don't accuse a game of hate that we haven't even had a chance to judge yet because of something this nuanced. Specifically because of the cyberpunk genre. Again, there's no reason someone needs to live with a voice that makes them feel dysmorphic. Though, one would argue Carol Channing's natural speaking voice and, B. Arthur's natural speaking voice would be read as male by that game, which, fair point to make, right? Argument that it's ham-handed. But hateful? That doesn't get us anywhere. That doesn't get us any closer to developers understanding what's meant by these concerns. That doesn't get us any closer to showing the acceptance that we want for ourselves, right? That doesn't get us any closer to a better environment and a better playing field to discuss these ideas so we can actually get progress. This is just angry virtue signaling. This is just attacking somebody. And don't get me wrong. People have the right to do that. People have the right to speak. That's why I said, do not attack that person. They're not the only one that thinks that. But again, I totally see the other side where people are like, for shit's sake, people do not understand this issue enough for you to be coming at them this hard, right? The fact that someone may not understand all of human biology and not be able to name every organ in a body does not mean they hate people. So people not being quite down with all the realities of dysmorphia and all the ways that actual hatreds can manifest or actual fear can manifest. People don't know this yet. We have to educate before we start screaming at people. This doesn't help. And personally, I am going to make every attempt to reward Cyberpunk 2077 for even attempting to come at gender and gender performance in a different, thoughtful, potentially innovative way. If they don't get it 100% right, no problem. We'll correct it going forward in other games, and we'll explain to them calmly and appreciative of them making the effort in the first place because it's appropriate for this kind of genre. We have to reward the effort because let's face it, there are some people who are transphobic out there and they're going to scream at Cyberpunk 2077 for, oh, you're SJW now. You're selling out. We don't want this. And so they're going to take crap from both sides instead of one side acting like intolerant shitbags and the other side going, you know what? We really appreciate you trying because this is not a no-risk act. Here's some things we suggest going forward so you know. But we really appreciate you even attempting to make the effort. That's productive. This other stuff is just scoring points in front of an audience of privileged assholes who, like me, and somebody's going to say, no, you got it wrong. It's not possible to... Wow, I did two sarcastic voices, different voices this way. But it's not possible to get issues like this right because right now we do not have any consensus on what actually is right. We have a basic amorphous idea that we need to loosen up regarding gender and gender identity and gender performance. We do not yet know where adapted social norms are going to land in this regard. And I saw this with gay rights before it was LGBTQ+. I saw this with people who thought the idea of pushing for marriage equality was actually, no kidding, homophobic because marriage is an inherently heteronormative act and it is heterosexual culture forced onto gay people, and therefore people pushing for marriage equality just had internalized homophobia. I'm not kidding. That was one of the arguments back then. So I am learning from that and not doing that again, because obviously we look back at that and go, well, that doesn't make any sense in hindsight. But I swear to God, guys, people made that argument, and people made that argument just as angrily as people are talking about things now. So you got to be really careful. We don't know where this jump ball is going to land. And what we want is progress instead of regression. So I would have preferred that Cyberpunk 2077 just got delayed till January. Lots of games do it, so they didn't have to crunch their staff, but they may have deals, like I said, with the console makers that prevent them from doing it. So I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt, because I want benefit of doubt. And that's the way this stuff works. All right, I'm sure some people are going to scream at me for this one, but woo! Internet, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.